Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4310-350-601. This is a 3.5 by 3.5 single acting full mortise residential weight spring hinge and a bright black japanned finish. So let's dissect the part number. LB stands for the fact that this is a lube bearing, which is a maintenance-free type of construction concealed bearing from Bommer. 4310 is a reference to the location of the screw holes and the corners, template pattern and square corner, very common, very typical. Also the fact that it is a residential leaf thickness on the hinge. That leaf thickness is 96 thousandths of an inch, which is common for residential applications. The 350 means that it is 3.5 inches tall and 3.5 inches wide. So 3.5 tall, 3.5 wide. 601 means bright black japanned. So glossy black finish. Okay. Available in several different finishes. Includes screws and a complementary finish. And it's a spring hinge. This is a common, typical spring hinge that you're going to use in most instances. You might be unsure if the location of the screw holes is what you need. Well, there's a link below this video to the template where you can take that and review it against what you are replacing or working with, determining whether or not the location of those holes is correct for you. 3.5 is very common for 1 3/8 doors. A hinge like this is going to be used to get a garage door to close, you know, an attached garage, any sort of residential application where 3.5 is the idea. There is also a guide to how many spring hinges you should put on the door, assuming you're dealing with up to a 3 foot by 7 foot. An 85-pound door, Bommer would recommend 2 spring hinges, and a 110-pound door, Bommer would recommend 3 spring hinges. Now, I'm a fan of all spring hinges, not because of the obvious reason, but because of the reason that you get greater success, higher success rate when you've got more spring hinges rather than less sharing that job. You can mix and match this with a standard 3.5 hinge because the axis of pivoting is compatible with that. But what I have found is that spring hinges are kind of like a tugboat. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight. And the advantage of having more spring hinges rather than less, you will see that more spring hinges allow you to store more energy so that you can have better control over the door, meaning you don't have to set the tension excessively high, and we'll talk about that in a moment, to close the door when you've got more springs that you can share the work against. Setting the tension excessively high will run the risk of breaking the spring hinges, and it's not this spring hinge, and it's not a repairable sort of construction. You also risk having to set the tension so high just to get the door moving quick enough to get it to actually get all the way to the latched or closed position. You might have to force the door to move very quickly, even to slam. So if your door needs to be self-closing, it's handy to have it self-latching as well, and more spring hinges will give you a better ability to reduce the tension on each of the spring hinges, have enough stored energy at the very closing part of the cycle of the door to get it to reliably overcome all that air pressure and the resistance of the latch bolt hitting the strike plate of the frame to latch completely closed, and do so in such a way that it's not moving too quickly through the opening. Okay, that's my recommendation based on my practical experience. Now, setting the tension, there's a link below this video to the instructions, and it's likely printed on the box that these hinges come in, is done by the included tension rod, which is that black piece of steel, and then the tension pin that you can see right there, that silver pin. So you insert the tension rod into the tension collar, and that's this collar here. There's only one of them. That should be pointed up. You can use it for either left-hand doors or for right-hand doors. So when you insert the tension rod into one of those holes, turn it clockwise, and that action reveals additional holes as I do that. And it's into one of those new holes that you insert the tension rod, or the tension pin, I should say, the silver pin. This order for the client has 2, so there's 2 tension pins, 2 hinges. About 3 holes is what Bommer recommends you to set the tension on and to not exceed. So that's where you would be setting the tension. Very simple, very straightforward. The last thing I'd like to show you is the Bommer logo. It says Made in USA right above it, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer number LB4310-350-601 single acting spring hinge or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.